Hi, I'm Rick Reed, the author of a new thriller called Toxic. In my new book, I deal with a successful mystery novelist from Seattle named Connor Ryman, whose long-term relationship has ended after many decades, and he's suddenly thrown into uncharted waters, online dating. And he doesn't know what awaits him there, and he's a little too trusting. So I'd just like to share a little of the story with you today. This is a scene where he meets the duplicitous, deceitful, but unknown to him, murderous Trey. And the relationship starts off on the wrong foot, as you'll see, but Connor will forgive him. Otherwise, there'd be no story. So here we go. Back at the condo, Connor got Trey a bourbon and poured himself a ginger ale. Trey slipped out again onto the balcony. Do you get to see the Christmas lights parade from here? Yup. With the finale at Gasworks, the lighted boats all end up right in front of my building. I like to imagine it's a command performance, just for me. He chuckled. Then I reel myself back to reality. It is magical, though. It brings out the kid in me. He moved back toward the sliders. I'm going to excuse myself for a minute. Be right back. He took himself into the little powder room and had a quick pee, then washed his hands and splashed his face with cold water. The evening, the date, however he wanted to label it, had had its ups and downs, but overall it was going all right. Trey had an air of mystery, and that wasn't a bad thing. Plus, he was sexy as hell, which never hurt. All in all, it looked like there might be some potential for more. Maybe. He was happy he'd be able to tell his daughter Miranda in the morning that the date had been a qualified success, and he hoped that he could also let her know that a second date was lined up in the very near future. Perhaps he could have both Trey and Miranda over for the Christmas Boat's finale and dinner. He opened the door and looked immediately to the balcony, where he expected to find Trey still sightseeing and sipping his bourbon. But he was gone. Trey? He wasn't in the living room, nor was he in the kitchen. Connor wandered down the hallway. The guest room/office was empty, although Trey had obviously switched on the desk lamp because Connor didn't recall having done that. There'd been no reason to. He came to his own bedroom, which was suffused with a warm glow from a small lamp on his dresser. On his bed, Trey lay, hands behind his head. He was wearing only a pair of black boxer briefs. This feels so good. He stroked the faux fur throw that Connor had placed across the bed. Come on. He patted the bed beside him. Connor froze. He didn't know what to do. Butterflies took wing in his gut. This was not where he wanted to go, even if Trey was sexy and even sexier, nearly naked. His body was tight, muscular, and saved from boring perfection by a pinkish scar that ran down the center of his abs. But this was too fast. Connor's only intention in bringing Trey home was to have a drink and maybe talk a little more. He hadn't been in a relationship in so long, and he wasn't too old to remember that most gay men were quick to hop into bed together, but he needed to take things slowly. About that much, Miranda had been right. He had never been promiscuous, even back in the days before HIV. He had always been a softie, a romantic at heart. This gay man is not ready for that. The sting of being dumped still clung to him. He loved Steve, despite that love no longer being reciprocated. He'd wake some mornings and reach for him, his head still clouded with sleep. When he wasn't there, the disappointment arose like some dark cloud. Would the loss never get easier? Trey lifted his head and cocked it. You gonna join me? Part of Connor, the insufferably polite, non-confrontational portion, debated for a moment whether he should just hop on the bed with Trey, to simply not rock the boat and be a good host. Then he reminded himself that was a lousy way to view himself. So even though he hated to do it, he said, I really just want to have a drink out in the living room. I hope I didn't give you the wrong idea. He attempted what he hoped was his most winning conciliatory smile. and a darkness fell over Trey. His smile, so warm and inviting, vanished, morphing into something Connor could only identify as a glower. He turned his back to Connor and groped on the floor on the opposite side of the bed for his clothes. He dressed quickly, his back to Connor. When dressed, he stooped to tie his shoes and then stood. He glared at Connor, his eyes gone dark. Wordlessly, he brushed by Connor, almost knocking him out of the way, heading for the front door. Connor was stunned. Hey, don't be like this. I'm just not ready. The words were thick on Connor's tongue as he watched Trey open the door, exit, and slam it behind him. To find out what happens next, pick up your copy of Toxic. Thanks for listening.